Defence Secretary warns prison officials of serious consequences if mistakes are repeated. Was the Sri Lanka-India World Cup final in 2011 fixed?
අපි දිනන්න තිබ්බ ඉන්දියාවත් එක්ක ගහන්න තිබ්බ තරගේ මම කියනවා ඒක පාවාදීමක් කරයි.
Attorney General instructs IGP to record statements from Maithripala Sirisena, Ranil Wickremesinghe and two others over the central bank bond scam. I have not decided to resign. Central Bank Governor dismisses reports of his resignation.
Good evening, you're watching Primetime News on TV1. First up in your lead story. Prison officials were warned today that novel measures will be taken if they continue to repeat mistakes made in the past. The warning comes from none other than the Defence Secretary, retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne. Speaking at a media conference in Colombo, he said that the Criminal Investigations Department has already launched investigations into the conduct of a few prison officials.
You must ask yourself, while serving in the prisons department for 20 years, did I serve my department, my country, my nation, my uniform and my children properly? Did I fulfill my duties? Don't misunderstand me. I didn't come here to find fault with any one of you. If a person is becoming a drug smuggler when he leaves prison, there is something radically wrong somewhere. There are no two words about that. Whose mistake is it? Question your hearts. Your hearts will tell you whose fault it is. Usually, even if an innocent child spends 1 or 2 months in remand custody, when he leaves, he is destroyed. Whose mistake is it? It is our mistake. I fed my children, clothed them and educated them using money from underworld leaders like Kanjipane Imran. You will realize that you did all of this at the expense of the well-being of the general public of the country when you are on your deathbed. There are no two words about that. I must especially state, you are a group of people who provide an honorary service to this country. The innocent people of this country expect you to serve this country honestly. Every grain of rice that we eat, every meal that our children eat, should remind us of our duty towards the innocent people of this country who provide us with the funds to do all of this. That is what I am trying to say. There would have been mistakes. Forget about them. But if these mistakes are repeated in the future, I am not threatening you, but if these mistakes are repeated in the future, we will launch investigations into those matters. Already the Criminal Investigations Department has launched investigations into a few people. Fulfill your responsibility to the prisoners. How do you fulfill your duties? Do not allow malpractices to take root inside prisons. Treat everybody equally.
අක්‍රමිකතා හිරගේ ඇතුලේ සිද්ධ වෙන්න ඉඩ නොදී හැමෝටම එක විදියට සලකන්න.
Now on to a story that has made ripples in the sporting arena. Was the 2011 Cricket World Cup final between India and Sri Lanka fixed? Former Minister of Sports Mahindananda Aluthkambage made an explosive revelation regarding the matter today while speaking on the Newsline program aired on our sister channel Sirasa TV.
I will reveal this today. The 2011 Cricket World Cup final was fixed. I believe it to this day. I did so even during my tenure as the Minister of Sports. I will state that responsibly. I am not pleased to reveal it. I cannot remember whether it was 2011 or 12, but we could have won against India. There was a betrayal.
අපි දිනන්න තිබ්බ ඉන්දියාවත් එක්ක ගහන්න තිබ්බ තරගේ මම කියනවා ඒක පාවාදීමක් කරයි කියලා.
ඒ කියන්නේ මැච් එක සල්ලි වලට වික්කා.
මම වගකීමකින් කියනවා මට
I will responsibly state that I feel there was something ambiguous. I can even debate about it. I do not wish to name players. However, a certain faction was involved in this.
ක්‍රීඩකයන් සම්බන්ධ කරගන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි යම් කිසි පාර්ශවයන් විසින් මේකට සම්බන්ධ වෙලා කටයුතු කරා.
The 2011 Cricket World Cup final was held on the 2nd of April at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai, India. Since Muttaya Muralidharan and Angelo Matthews had sustained injuries during the tournament, Chaminda Vaz and Suraj Randiv had been called into the squad. The Sri Lankan team played the finals of the World Cup with 4 player changes. The selection committee had decided to pick Chamara Kapugedara, Thisara Pereira, Suraj Randiv and Nuwan Kulasekara ahead of Chamara Silva, Rangana Herath, Ajanta Mendes and Angelo Matthews. Sri Lanka lost by 6 wickets at the final. Citing a statement made by former cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga, The Hindustan Times newspaper had published an article in July 2017 claiming that an investigation into the 2011 Cricket World Cup final should be carried out. In 2017, former Minister of Sports Dayasiri Jayasekara too had admitted that the issues surrounding the finals were ambiguous to the extent where a probe is required. Mahindananda Aluthgamage was the Minister of Sports in the country when the 2011 Cricket World Cup was held. D.S. De Silva was the chairman of Sri Lanka Cricket, while Nishant Ranatunga was the secretary. Suraj Dandenia was the country director for the World Cup. Aravinda De Silva was the chairman of the selection committee appointed for the tournament, while Amal Silva, Ranjit Fernando and Shabir Asghar Ali were the other committee members. In reply to the former minister's revelation, Kumar Sangakkara, who was the captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team during the 2011 Cricket World Cup final, had claimed that this is a serious accusation. He added, quote, "I believe since this is a serious allegation, he should provide all his evidence to the ICC and the Anti-Corruption and Security Unit. If he does that, no one will have to assume anything. The ICC can get to the bottom of this. That is the most pertinent act. If my memory serves me right, he was the Minister of Sports during the time," unquote. Mahela Jayawardena was the vice captain of the team in 2011, and he too had taken to Twitter to respond to the allegation. He wrote, quote, "Is the election around the corner? Looks like the circus has started. Names and evidence," unquote. When inquired from the ICC regarding the matter, it said that it does not hold the liberty to remark on the issue.
The MCC agreement figured during the cabinet media briefing held today.
විශාල ප්‍රචාරයක් ගෙනියනවා මේ MCC.
They are making widespread claims that the MCC agreement will be signed. The MCC agreement was prepared by the United National Party government for a sum of 48 million. We prevented the government at that time from signing the agreement since we as the opposition had accused them of signing an agreement that affects the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of this country. The present government has made a very clear decision that we will not sign any agreement with any foreign nation if it is detrimental to the country's constitution and its laws. Be it China or the US, we will hold discussions with any country that is offering financial assistance. We will obtain the required grant by signing several agreements regardless of whether it is with the United States, China, France or Germany.
ඒ සඳහා ගිවිසුම් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අත්සන් වෙනවා.
The grant that was to be received by the country under the MCC compact was $480 million. However, the issue with the grant is that it must be spent only in two sectors. The first is for the country's transport sector, and the second is for the land administration that would see land law reformations with assistance of the latest technology. As a result, suspicions arise as to whether this is merely a grant or whether the country will have to abide by the instructions of the grant providers concerning these projects.
The
US ambassador is saying that the signing of the agreement will be taken up for discussion on the 5th of August. There are two views regarding this. If a foreign ambassador is making remarks against the government, there is a possibility of deporting an envoy, isn't it?
ඉතාම ප්‍රවේශමෙන්
No, our government is maintaining diplomatic ties with extreme caution. We have received a report regarding this incident from some high-level sources. During a discussion with the US ambassador, a journalist had asked a question. The US ambassador had responded saying that the primary focus at the moment is to face the COVID-19 crisis and to conduct the election. She had not uttered a single word on the MCC agreement. Her response had been distorted by the journalist who had reported it, saying that the US ambassador is waiting until the conclusion of the parliamentary election to decide on the MCC agreement. That is the situation. She has not spoken about the MCC agreement.
ප්‍රචාරය කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි ඇති වෙලා තිබෙන තත්ත්වය. MCC කතාවක් කියලා.
However, upon inquiries made by Newsfirst, the US embassy said that the government has requested for time to review the MCC agreement. The embassy had said that the US respects this request.
ආණ්ඩුව තීරණයක් ගත්තා මොනම හේතුවක් නිසාවත් කුමන රටක් සමගවත් ආණ්ඩු ක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවට පටහැනි සහ රටේ නීති පද්ධතියට පටහැනි කිසිම කිවිසුමක් අත්සන් කරන්නේ නැහැ.
ඒ කියන්නේ සංශෝධනය කරලා සුදුසු නම් අත්සන් කරනවා. එහෙමද?
ඕනේ කිවිසුමක්.
MCC එක ඇතුළත.
MCC කිවිසුම ආයිත් එන්නේ නැහනේ. MCC කිවිසුම ඉවරයි. අත්සන් කළේ නැහනේ කවුරුත්.
ඒක සංශෝධනය කරලා අත්සන් කරන්න බලන්න.
ඒක සංශෝධනය කරන්න ඕනේ නැහනේ. මොකද
ඒ කියන්නේ අමතුමා වෙන නමකින්වත් එනවද?
ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ
When grants are being offered by countries, be it the US, China or Korea, agreements like this will surface. Once a cabinet proposal is put forward, I will inform the media that we are going to go ahead with this. Be patient until that.
මේක අත්සන් කරනවා. එතකන් ඉවසීමෙන් හිටියාම හරි.
MCC ගිවිසුම බරපතල.
The MCC agreement causes severe damage. However, they created an image worse than that. What has happened now? They are now forced to sign it. They have been unable to refrain from signing the agreement. By the looks of their tone, we can assume that they will sign it. However, they will delay signing it as they are on the verge of the election. Therefore, we feel that all these agreements will be signed as soon as the election is over.
ඔය ඔක්කොම ගිවිසුම් ටික ආපහු අවසන් කරනවා කියලා තමයි අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නේ.
The US ambassador is saying that this will be reviewed. The government has also said that they will review it. At that time, they did not speak about a review. Now they're trying to please the US. This is why they attacked the protesters of the Frontline Socialist Party opposite the US Embassy. That is because the government lacks funds. Sometimes they might sign the agreement to obtain the $500 million grant.
The High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka said that India is hoping to closely support Sri Lanka to face the economic challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic.
So, because of the COVID situation, the global pandemic, there have been challenges to almost every country in the world. And the good thing about Sri Lanka is that by and large the disease has been, its spread has been controlled. Now the Sri Lankan economy now can start towards looking at recovery. As far as India is concerned, we have committed at the highest level. Our Prime Minister had spoken to the Honorable President of Sri Lanka last month, and he conveyed India's full support to Sri Lanka for working together with Sri Lanka for the economic recovery, and we will do whatever we can as Sri Lanka's closest maritime neighbor and partner to face these challenges. Also within the SAARC framework, Prime Minister Modi had taken the initiative in March for regional cooperation to fight various challenges, health and economy, and I'm very happy that we are having very close cooperation with Sri Lanka to fight all the challenges posed by the COVID situation.
The Indian High Commissioner paid homage to the temple of the sacred tooth relic in Kandy and called on the Mahanayaka of the Asgiri chapter of the Siam sect.
Most Venerable, I came 1 month ago and on 8th of May. And then because I was in quarantine, then I had the opportunity to call and then pay my respects through video call. And most
he warmly recalls that.
Yes. Very kind of you that I sought your blessings, and I had mentioned to the Most Venerable that as soon as possible I will come and personally.
Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Professor W.D. Lakshman, dismissed reports of his resignation from the position of the governor. In response to the queries made by Newsfirst, CBSL Governor Professor W.D. Lakshman further said he has no plans to resign either. Meanwhile, the steps taken by the central bank as per the instructions of the President were further elaborated at the Cabinet media briefing.
You know that the use of money was stalled for about 3 months. The objective of this is to encourage the cash flow in the country. After bringing down the statutory reserve ratio from 4% to 2%, the commercial banks will be able to provide more loans to the SME sector and those affected by COVID-19. The second policy decision was to provide concessionary loans to the SME sector. The central bank will give an additional 100 billion to the commercial banks to provide for working capital requirements of the small and medium scale enterprises. This will have a very low interest rate of 12.4%. 240 billion rupees should be paid to contractors and others for the services during the previous government. They have bills with them. As the third step, we will allow them to produce these bills as securities and obtain loans. This will be until the bills are settled through a budget document. These three steps will boost the economy to a great extent. The money circulation will increase.
ප්‍රධාන යෝජනා ක්‍රම තුනට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා.
Now, the yields in government securities fell to 5-year low following the central bank announced a massive liquidity injection by reducing SRR to 2% from 4%, which has resulted in additional liquidity of 115 billion rupees into the market. The 3-year bond rates were at 7.75%, its lowest since June 2015, and the 6-year bond were at 8.59%. The benchmark 91-day Treasury bill fell by 0.30% to 6.30% to its lowest since December 2015. 182 days by 0.48% to 6.30%, its lowest since December 2015, and 364 days by 0.30% to 6.62%, its lowest since August 2015 at the primary auction held on Wednesday. Liquidity in the overnight money market was 212.42 billion rupees today, marginally falling from previous days. 221.78 billion rupees shoot up after SRR rate cut. The rupee currency closed weaker at 186 rupees and 60 cents to the US dollar on Thursday compared to Wednesday close of 186 rupees and 45 cents. The United National Party convened a media briefing today.
I
am happy that the President has joined us in support of what we fought for the last 5 years. The President held a meeting in the morning 2 days ago and enlightened the central bank officials on the true situation. He said, "I have been waiting for 7 months and I need solutions by tomorrow." Before the end of the day, interest rates were dropped to 2%. Do these officials have to wait to be instructed to perform their duties? When officials from the World Bank come here, the CBSL officials are trembling in fear. But when the Finance Ministry says something, they are upset. Officials of the World Bank go there after retirement, so they don't care what happens to Sri Lanka as long as their policies are adhered to. Do these foreigners know how our country should be run? We ran the Ministry of Finance without taverns and alcohol. Who was there? The Deputy Minister was Harsha De Silva. After that it was Kabir Hashim. Who can answer these questions? They are creating unwanted problems.
ඇමති කවුද? කබීර් හෂීම්. මේවට උත්තර දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ. නිකරුණේ ප්‍රශ්න ඇති කරනවා.
ඔය දේශපාලනික අවශ්‍යතාවය මත එතකොට අර්ජුන් මහේන්ද්‍ර මහ බැංකුව අධිපති වුණේ.
ඒක මන් දන්නේ. පත් කරපු ඒ අයගෙන් අහන්න අවශ්‍යයි.
I don't know. You will have to ask the people who appointed them. Legally, it was Maithripala Sirisena who appointed him, but it was done based on the request of the then Prime Minister. We also need to ask as to how Ajit Niwad Cabral was appointed. Mendes was appointed in the year 2000. You are only confining this debate to one appointment. Stop doing this. I am always ready to answer you bravely without hiding. There is nothing that we can do. You misinterpret what we said. Why don't you ask these questions from the Deputy Minister Harsha De Silva and other people who ran the central bank after that?
ඒගොල්ලෝ නිකන් ඔහේ නම් නැති කරනවා.
අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ඊයේ අහනවා. අහනකොට ඔය පුටුවේ ඉඳගෙන දඩල්ලගේ මහත්තයා උත්තර දෙනවා. අපි අහන්නේ මහා බැංකු හොරු සිරිකොත ඇතුලේ නෑ කියලා ඔබතුමාට කියන්න පුළුවන්. එතුමා හිටපු රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරියෙක්. එතුමා කියනවා මට බෑ කියලා. එතුමාටත් මේ සිරිකොතේ ඉන්න පිරිස ගැන විශ්වාසයක් නෑ.
You can ask that from them. I'll tell you what's the best thing that can be done. Instead of sending agents, ask Sajid to come here and ask those questions from us. Ask them to come and we will provide the answers. They will never come. They question us through jokers like you.
ප්‍රොක්සි තුලින් තමයි උත්තර අහන්නේ.
ඔබතුමාට කියන්න පුළුවන්ද මේ සිරිකොත ඇතුලේ මහ බැංකු හොරු නෑ?
එකෙක්වත් නැහැ. එකෙක්වත් නැහැ. මම වගකීමකින් කියනවා.
Lambasting someone in public is not a sign of a matured politician. It is a sign of a thug. You cannot rule the country by behaving like a thug. One should be knowledgeable on a particular subject or seek advice from professionals. They started Vietmaga by saying they will go forward with professionals, but now there's none. Whatever it is, the army comes first to their minds. That's why we say the next election is crucial. If people do not make the best decision, the country's future will be very dangerous.
අද දක්වා එතුමාගේ ඉන්න නිලධාරීන්
To this date, his officials, the Attorney General's Department or the judiciary have not been able to bring in former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran into the country and prosecute him. Also, not a single word is uttered against the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was one of the main accused in the bond scam. Today he is good to them. What happened to the $230 million received from the World Health Organization? Also, monetary aid was given to many countries by the IMF, the Asian Development Bank, the European Union, the United States of America and the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is the finance minister, should tell the country the amount of aid that the country received and what was done with that aid.
රටට කියන්න ඕන කොච්චර මේ රටට ආධාර ලැබුණද? ඒ ආධාර වලින් මොකද කරේ?
සහන ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවීම සම්බන්ධයෙන්
Neither the president nor the prime minister nor the government can follow a silent policy on the non-implementation of relief. Who was hurt by the recent incident at the central bank? It was the ones who robbed the central bank while in power. Only Ranil Wickremesinghe did not comment on the summoning of the central bank officials. The ones who protected the thieves who robbed the central bank are now posing accusations against the president when asked about the central bank.
බැංකුව සම්බන්ධයෙන් අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කරද්දී ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අවලාද නගන්න සූදානම් වෙලා ඉන්නවා.
The Cabinet of Ministers had decided on a number of new projects and foreign concessionary loans. The Cabinet decided to approve an investment of $1 billion at the Colombo port city by Checkport City. The project will be implemented on 6.8 hectares of the port city. The project will be implemented under the Strategic Development Projects Act. The biggest investment in Sri Lanka will be done in two phases. Under the first phase, between $400 to $500 million will be invested, while under the second phase, between $500 to $600 million will be invested. Both phases will be conducted during 2 4-year periods. The Cabinet of Ministers also decided to suspend the levy of promotion tax on tea exports for a period of 6 months. Thereby, the 3 rupee and 50 cents tax levied per kilo of exported tea will be temporarily suspended. Cabinet also approved the signing of an agreement to receive aid from Japan to the tune of 1.3 billion rupees. The funds are to be utilized to purchase medical equipment. Views were expressed on the loan secured from the World Bank. The World Bank has granted a loan of $56 million under concessional conditions to provide concessions to various sectors that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have received these funds to provide concessions to the agricultural industry, the education sector, the Ministry of Information Technology, the disaster management sector, and the public transport sector. During today's cabinet briefing, it was revealed that the recipients of 42,000 packages that had been posted from overseas cannot be identified. This is an unfair accusation. Airports across the world had remained closed in the recent past. Therefore, parcels which were to be sent by airmail had to be shipped. Last week, we had received a container containing 42,000 parcels. However, the addresses of the recipients had been smudged due to water which had seeped into them while being shipped. If there is no address, how can these parcels be distributed, although it has reached the country? This consignment had been sent from Malaysia. We have informed the Malaysian authorities to assist in the process of identifying the recipients of the parcels. Otherwise, we will return these parcels. This is not a fault of the Postal Department.
Up next is Action TV.
Tensions were high in the vicinity of the Potuvil Muhudu Mahavihare this morning. This group was protesting against the Surveyor General beginning to survey the area surrounding the Muhudu Mahavihare under the supervision of the Department of Archaeology. The ownership of the land surrounding the Muhudu Mahavihare gave rise to much controversy in the recent past. The survey of these lands began today pursuant to a decision of the Presidential Task Force for Archaeological Heritage Management in the Eastern Province. The first proper survey of the land surrounding the Muhudu Mahavihare was conducted in 1964. Based on the survey, 73 acres of land was mapped. Out of the 73 acres, 30 acres, 3 routes and 2 perches was named as an area with archaeological importance. However, this was only gazetted on the 4th of June 2004. Even before the lapse of a year since the land was gazetted as an area of archaeological importance, the then president in the year 2005 distributed over 12 hectares of this land among the general public. The Commissioner General of Archaeology in the year 2015 informed the Secretary to the relevant ministry in writing that an area of 30 acres had been named as a land of archaeological importance. With tensions escalating in the area today, politicians in the area were also present at the scene. The Pothuwil Divisional Secretary diffused the situation. We are only taking down the plan of the areas that were reported. We walked along with the old plan. We are trying to locate this area based on the old plan.
ලොකේට් කරගන්න එක තමයි කරන්නේ අර සැලැස්මට අනුව.
The father of notorious underworld kingpin and organized criminal Kanjipani Imran was attacked by 3 men in Maligawath last evening. The following footage is extremely disturbing and viewer discretion is advised. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that successful manner the spread of COVID-19 was brought under control proves that, like the government led by him between 2006 and 2014, the present government led by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is also capable of prevailing over apparently insurmountable odds. The statement issued by the Prime Minister stated, quote, "This achievement was made possible by the correct political leadership provided by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa," end quote. Commenting on various conspiracies being hatched against the government, the Premier said, and I quote, "Within days of the President taking office, there was the well-publicized drama alleging that an employee of a Western embassy had been abducted, harassed and questioned," end quote. The Prime Minister said the President adroitly defeated all these conspiracies. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa further said all demonstrations marching to surround the Presidential Secretariat were allowed to get to their destination unhindered, thus giving the lie to propaganda that a rigid authoritarian rule had commenced under President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is a former military officer. Prime Minister Rajapaksa went on to note that as soon as the resumption of civilian life towards normalcy began following the COVID-19, a minor political party that attempted to stage protest over an incident that had taken place in the USA, which has no relevance to Sri Lanka, in defiance of a court order, was taken into custody by Sri Lanka police and produced in court. In the statement, Prime Minister Rajapaksa mentioned of an incident in 2014 involving an actress who caught red-handed directing a video where she pretends to have been injured and hospitalized after an alleged assault, and another long-haired individual who said that it would have been better if he had been thrown into a drain soon after birth to save him the pain of living in a country ruled by the Rajapaksas, adding such individuals are once again seen in public after a lapse of 5 years. Prime Minister Rajapaksa said as a government they are not happy with the manner in which demonstrations were dealt with, adding the present government publicly condemned this on several occasions. He pointed out those involved in demonstrations were professional agitators who know how to provoke the police. Commenting on the funeral rites of the late Minister Arumugam Thondaman, the Premier said Minister Thondaman was the leader of the upcountry Tamil community and the curfew was imposed in the Nuvara Eliya district to prevent large numbers of grief-stricken people from attending the funeral of their leader. The people of that area had cooperated. Thereby, the Prime Minister said this incident was completely different to that of holding a protest in Colombo or the matter in the USA that does not concern Sri Lanka. In his statement, the Prime Minister reminded that demonstrators used to turn up almost daily in front of the Presidential Secretariat, just as they did during the Yahapalana government. Most of those demonstrators wanted the employment they had obtained from the Yahapalana government made permanent, adding those demonstrators had come out not to find fault with the present government but to curse the previous government. According to the statement, those youthful demonstrators were caught on camera telling the Yahapalana minister who had given them dud appointments not to come back to Hambantota. The Premier notes, and I quote, "We now see that the Yahapalana minister concerned has in fact abandoned Hambantota and is now contesting from Colombo." End quote. The leader of the Samika Janabalawegaya, Sajith Premadasa, responded to the Prime Minister's statement at Rathgama, Galle this afternoon.
The Prime Minister of the country is unaware of the pulse of the people and the grievances of the common man. As the Prime Minister, how can you pave the way for a prosperous country if you have no knowledge of what's happening in the country? I request the Prime Minister not to be deceived by gossip and foolish advice given by the brainless group surrounding him. Read the reports of the Department of Census and Statistics. The people are suffering. The economy has collapsed. There's no income streams, so the people are hopeless. This is why I propose to provide 60,000 rupees to fulfill food and other requirements. If that cannot be done, I said provide 20,000 rupees at least to fulfill the cost of food, with the intention of keeping the people without starvation. Therefore, the data provided by the Department of Census and Statistics clearly proves as to who is making unwise statements.
Up next is a short commercial break. Welcome back to the news. Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira instructed the acting IGP to record statements from former President Maithripala Sirisena and former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe about the central bank treasury bond scam. State Counsel Nishara Jayaratne, the coordinating officer for the Attorney General, said the acting IGP was instructed to record statements from the former advisor to Prime Minister P. Paskaralingam and General Manager of the People's Bank Vasantha Kumar on the bond scam. The Attorney General had given these instructions based on the recommendations made by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which is appointed to investigate the issuance of treasury bonds from the 1st of February 2015 to the 31st of March 2016. He also instructed the acting IGP to submit copies of the statements without delay. From the political arena, we moved to the wild. The wild elephant conflict, which is a constant problem, has not seen a permanent solution yet. This situation has severely affected the residents of Rathabalagama. This is their story.
Residents of several areas including Thanamalwila, Hambegamuwa, Kahakurullan Palassa and Rathabalagama spend their nights in fear of wild elephants. Newsfirst met with the residents of Rathabalagama who spend their nights awake to protect their crops from being eaten by wild elephants. Residents of this village strive to protect their crops while keeping themselves awake at night by chanting limericks. These villagers are not here on an excursion. This is how the people of Rathabalagama protect their crops. This is how they stay awake until the crack of dawn.
රොටියක් පුච්චන් කාලා හෙට පහන් වනතුරු මොහුගේ බවභෝග ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න වෙරදරන්නේ මෙන්න මේ ආකාරයට. මෙතනට ඇවිල්ලා හැමදාම මේ වගේ පැල්
We have to protect our crops every night, otherwise we will have to suffer in grief the next morning.
දුනොත් එහෙම අපිට ඊට පහුවෙන්දට ඉතින් අනේ කියන්න තමයි වෙන්නේ.
The villagers in this area have been able to protect their crops only by sacrificing their sleep at night. However, they return to their homes the next morning only to find their homes destroyed by wild elephants. This house has been destroyed for the second time in 2 months. News First filed a report regarding this incident in April as well.
कोई दने लिरिया नदने के टेने एक मम्मी इधर पर ले जाएंगे ठीक रातिnya पत्तू को तो कराचन नगाल तू ना तेरा पत्तू को नम्बर पास रिंगा ये आटे की इट पास कैडवा से रूम कैडवा काला भी कवर हाथ आटा काला
हमार ओलुआत ते दिला मैं दम मैं बेटिंग
The Pathfinder Foundation has recommended the setting up of a presidential task force on ocean resources as part of Sri Lanka's post-COVID-19 development strategy.
Issuing a press release, the Pathfinder Foundation stresses that Sri Lanka should be ready to exploit the strategic location recognized by foreign naval powers for over 500 years. The foundation proposed the setting up of a presidential task force in order to mobilize the interest and ideas of all concerned and well-informed public on ways in which the government intends to protect and utilize the rich and varied resources of the seas around us. The release adds that areas including national and regional security, environmental and ecological protection, trade, navigation and shipping related activities should be included in the mandate of the task force.
In my political experience of 30 years, I reckon this is the best platform we have for an election. People of this country are praising the efforts taken by the President to curb the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, the friction within the UNP is in our favor. A good premise is set for us with the need for amending the Constitution, and at a time where harmful policies for our country needs to be either abolished or amended. That is why we are trying to get the two-thirds majority.
But
a problem arose with regards to the quarantine law following late Thondaman's funeral. Large groups were seen not following social distancing regulations. They were not like us, they were together.
When 100 things go according to plan, one thing can go wrong, but the President gave all the necessary instructions needed to curb the situation. You know that the estate people are a little difficult to control. Then the President imposed curfew on Saturday, but I do accept that it is the fault of the government. We could not control the situation.
Although the situation at the funeral was like that, the frontline Socialist Party who were protesting at the Lipton Circus abiding by health guidelines were attacked and dragged off by the police. Is that fair?
I admitted that we did a mistake with Thondaman's funeral, but that does not mean that we should let it happen again. Laws were imposed saying that people should not gather at public places. Police tried their best to control the situation. However, as they failed to do so, the final result was different.
We saw the footage of a woman being tossed into a jeep and people being attacked. You came into power to create a very democratic rule.
You saw how the President interacted with the protesters following his election win. He came to the protesters and spoke with them. That is democracy. What more democracy do you expect from a leader? Does the President of the US let anyone else travel on the same road he travels? Our President let the people protest at his pace.
How many protests have you staged at the Lipton Circus?
I have been in many protests and have been attacked as well. Tear gas canisters have been fired at me and I have been arrested as well.
But that attack against the frontline Socialist Party is not justifiable, isn't it?
What I say is the police tried to control the situation, and as they failed, they opted for the last resort. But I do not justify their behavior. What you say is correct. I will tell you one thing. Those people are coming to fight. Therefore, the FSP is waiting till they are attacked so that their campaign will boost.
Did you also come to the Lipton Circus back then hoping to be attacked?
No, we follow a very democratic path. I came in a parade once.
You handed over a document containing 19 names of people involved in large-scale corruption activities to the Bribery and Corruption Commission. What happened to that?
First, we were given a scheduled time by a Director General. We were not even given a room to discuss the matter. We were communicating with an office assistant at the Commission. We asked them as to what action has been taken against this. He showed us documents. A letter has been sent to Ravikarna Nayaka, Rajat Sena Ratna, P. Harrison, but none of them have arrived at the Commission. The document indicates not arrived for 5 years in the record. Finally, the document cites that the investigation was halted due to staff. I went to see the IGP and gave him the set of complaints we had made. On the 4th of January 2016, we had made the complaint. On the 6th of January 2016, Pujit Jayasundara closed that file. All files have been closed. That is Yahapalanaya. During this run-up to the election, I will be the first one to start a struggle against the government if the responsible people are not punished for these crimes.
That was News First Rangasina Nayaka in conversation with former Minister of Sports Mahindananda Alkamage on the Newsline program aired on our sister channel Sirasa TV. Now for the full interview, log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk and all our digital platforms including YouTube, Instagram and Facebook.
We want a clean parliament. We want a clean government. Think before you vote.
The funeral service of the late Reverend Father Ernest Poruthuta was held this evening. The service was led by His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit.
Reverend Father Ernest Poruthuta was born on the 31st of August 1931 in Maravilla. He was 88 years of age when he passed away on the 16th of this month. He was ordained as a priest on the 2nd of February 1957. Reverend Father Poruthuta rendered a yeoman service to Sri Lanka's cinema industry and the field of mass media and communication studies. He passed away while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. The mortal remains of Reverend Poruthuta were laid at the Archbishop's house until 6:30.
Now, in news overseas, ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton's new book says US President Donald Trump tried to get China's Xi Jinping to help him secure re-election. According to details of the forthcoming book previewed by US media, Bolton says Trump wanted China to buy agricultural produce from US farmers. He also says Trump remained stunningly uninformed on how to run the White House. The Trump administration is trying to block the book from hitting shelves. However, Bolton's 577-page tome, The Room Where It Happened, is due to go on sale on the 23rd of June. Now we leave you tonight with the Nagituma Sri Lanka song sung by the students of the Good Shepherd Convent in Kandy. Tonight's sign language interpreter was Brandy Cruz and I'm Muad Razik. From all of us here at the News First desk, good night and take care.
Negative Namatha, Nagitimu, Sri Lanka.